Just a short time ago, the House joined the Senate in passing legislation to temporarily fund federal agencies. The package now goes to the president for his signature. Anyway, the blowback for Trump was swift from at least one hard-right commentator. Within minutes of Trump's remarks, Ann Coulter tweeted that the president was, quote, the biggest wimp ever to serve as president of the United States. His retreat over the wall, of course, also marks the second time this week Trump capitulated to House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who'd insisted on no negotiations for the wall until the government was reopened. The Speaker and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer of New York addressed reporters shortly after the president spoke.
Speaker Pelosi, did the president underestimate you politically? And can you assure the public that there won't be another impasse in 3 weeks?
I can't assure the public on anything that the president will do, but I do have to say I'm optimistic. I can't characterize the president's evaluation of me.
And do you think that he thought he could get what he wanted?
I think he thought no one should ever underestimate the speaker, as Donald Trump has learned.
For more, I'm joined by Democratic Congressman of New York, Gregory Meeks, and Jonathan Lemire, White House reporter for the Associated Press. Congressman, as a politician, what do you think of this standoff this week? It looks like the president caved in, lost 100%. It's all lost for him.
Well, Nancy Pelosi is the master negotiator. She said all along that we needed to get back to the table only when the American people get back to work. That's what's happened from the beginning. So we could have avoided all of this if he had just listened to Nancy Pelosi in the beginning.
But he listened to Rush Limbaugh and Coulter.
Well, clearly, and they don't know how to run a government, and they could see that they were losing and had lost the American people because of the Trump shutdown in the very beginning. And so now, as Nancy has said, because Democrats all along, we want border security, but we want sensible and reasonable border security. And I think that the format that they're putting together, that working like it is a conference committee.
Yeah, the regular way.
That's right, with 6 Democrats, 6 Republicans in both House and Senate, sit down with the experts so that we can talk about how do we really secure the borders and hire judges and, law enforcement and make sure we have drones and electronics that's up to date. That's what you do. That's what Nancy Pelosi was talking about from day one.
You think Trump would buy a smart solution like that really dealt with border enforcement, or he just wants this symbolic brick wall?
Well, I think that he's now backed into the corner because, when you're a con man, he's
not going to get the brick wall.
No, when you're a con man, sometimes the con is up, okay? He started conning the American people in the beginning when he said he's going to build a brick wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. The con is up. He can't do that.
It's interesting to watch. Thank God we have video now, so you can watch some of these meetings. A couple weeks ago in the Oval Office itself, he started to talk her down. I know the tricky situation Nancy's in right now. She can't really speak for the House Democrats. She's had a little leadership challenge there. And he calls her Nancy, and she just called him on it. She just said, don't talk to me about my political situation, my leadership. And now he's gotten an object lesson from her.
There's no question that one of the results of this shutdown is that her power has only increased, and is no question as an equal to him in Washington, which drives him privately sort of insane. This is obviously, it's a good news story that workers are going to start getting paid again, but this is a loss for this White House, and they know it. If the art of the deal had been this negotiation, no one would have bought that book. The White House saw the writing on the wall. Last night, after those votes in the Senate, the 2 dueling bills that passed, there was a sense of resignation there. They knew they had to move towards this. It was just a question of trying to spin it in some sort of victory today, try to sell it to Republicans that it's not entirely caved. But, of course, we're seeing that media on the right not buying it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.